Today's guest is Ashley Kochans, who is a digital marketer, yoga instructor, and an entrepreneur. Her marketing consultancy, Kochans Consulting, provides digital solutions, training, and expert execution to mission-driven organizations. She's also passionate about using technology to amplify the voices of important causes such as education, mindfulness, and wellness. So, Ashley, thank you very much for being on. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Yeah, so I'd love to dive into more about you and who you are, because I mean, digital marketing and like agency world with like yoga, you don't usually see them
Yeah.
mixed together. So I'm curious, what your story is and how you got to doing what you're doing.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I toyed with the term mindful marketer, but it seemed a little too gimmicky, but they don't combine those. And I have to say that the value set of mindfulness and doing things slowly and intentionally in the fast-paced world of digital marketing is a hard mix, but it's one that's so necessary. So to your other question, I got into this world purely out of necessity. I was doing victim advocacy, which is hard and grueling emotional labor. And so after I did that, I needed to make a hard turn away from that direction. And I found digital marketing as a place where there was less emotion involved. The clients that came to me usually just needed a business proposition and that's it. But that was a little too cold for me still. I like working with people that do good things. And so I founded this business in large part to combine those two needs, the need for marketing and the need to make money, but also my personal need to be doing work with people that do good things.
Got it. Well, I mean, no better way to combine, your kind of two loves and passions to create more impact. So yeah, I'm 100% on board with that, and I totally get it. I totally resonate with it. So in that case, what I'd love to dive into is, what is happening in your business right now? What's a challenge in your business right now? And we can begin to explore that further.
Yeah. So my business was founded at the beginning of the pandemic. And like many people, I was in survival mindset for basically a year to 2 years. Now that we're coming out of this age of just do what you need to do to survive and pay the bills and stay safe, I was at a crossroads with my business and I didn't know how to solve it. So I sought out a lot of different feedback from different people. I did an incubator program, and all of these things led to feeling kind of overcoached. So now I'm sitting back in this like um, swimming well of emotions, just like analysis paralysis is what it's called. Like, I don't know what to do because I spent so long thinking about what to do.
Got it. Well, no better way to get through coaching overwhelm than to get some more coaching on top of it, right? So yeah, it's a great spot to be in that case.
Yeah, well, I think that like I process at least in conversation with other people. So it's helpful for me to be here.
Perfect. So in that case, okay, so let's just like contextualize that a bit more, right? So you
Yeah.
got into these incubators, you sought out all of this mentorship. You mentioned you spent a lot more time thinking than you did implementing. So tell me, like, what was the initial goal going into those experiences?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I think I'm in analysis paralysis now because I was in the exact opposite about 3 months ago. And that was just feeling overwhelmed with all of the work that I had. But the problem is that I had all this client demand and tons of people blowing out my inbox to do more projects, but I wasn't making lots of money. So I still don't know really if there's a short line answer, please tell me, but I'm still looking for how do I translate client demand into a profitable business that suits my lifestyle.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, keep
that's
going. There's more. Yeah.
no, that's the money question.
Okay. So how do I translate more demand into money or a profitable business?
Yeah.
Okay. How would you answer your own question?
um, I'm tempted to say just keep working. Like if you've got people that are willing to work with you, then like keep going and you'll find the right answer. But I have been keeping going for for the last 2 years and it hasn't worked yet. So
Okay.
I'm
So
stuck.
you tested your own answer to that question. It didn't yield the results that you want. It yielded, as you say, either analysis paralysis or overwhelm. Too much
Yeah.
demand for my time with not enough receiving on my end as far as like money wise for my
Yeah.
time. So number one, is that accurate?
What you just said, the situation, or
Correct. Yeah.
yeah, yes, you summarized it beautifully.
Okay. Perfect. So what if you just double your prices?
Yeah. Something. So I started at, just to be frank, I started at $45 per hour, which was really low. I now, with my nonprofit clients, offer 75 per hour. And I have been told that my rate for a digital marketer that's a full stack marketer could indeed be 125. So I could double my prices again, but something tells me that doing that with the same client set twice feels bad. Um, so maybe the answer is choosing a different client set. But the thing that really is preventing me from just raising prices is the type of client that I work with. A lot of them have small budgets, they're nonprofits that are kind of strapped for cash anyway. And so I know that if I were to go to the 125 that I could be charging, it would mean I'd go back to working with Amazon merchants that make millions and move away from this health and wellness mindfulness niche that I've created in terms of my client base.
Okay. And what would be the issue of that?
I would have, I think, like a personal, um, I don't know, like a values problem. It wouldn't suit what I want to do to be furthering the goal of uh, highly capitalist businesses, I guess.
Right. So if I'm helping somebody who's selling iPhone cases, it doesn't have the same value and feel as if I'm helping somebody who, whatever, does a mindfulness coaching business. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. And are there any spiritual type entrepreneurs or people who don't have small budgets?
Probably. I haven't found them yet.
Okay. Well,
um,
do you know of, like, maybe not know them personally, but do you know of any that you might follow online?
um, that's an interesting question because I do online visibility. So I think that if I found someone online, not through word of mouth or just my personal relationships, it means they already have really good marketing. So they might not need my services. But maybe I'm getting into circular logic here. The answer is no, I haven't. I don't follow anybody that I know has a big budget and also matches with my values.
Okay. Is it possible that those people exist?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. So right now, we're in this holding pattern, or you're in this holding pattern where the type of people that you work with and have chosen to work with and are only looking for perfectly match how much you're getting paid, how much you're working, and really perfectly reflect your ability and openness to receive more than that. And to just expand, or in addition to that, the possibility that other heart space entrepreneurs exist is kind of shut off from the potentiality that that could be like I could serve other people doing big impact because they must have already figured out all of their marketing, so never going to need any support
Yeah.
within that. leaving you in a perfect spot to be right where you're at and stuck overworking for what it is that you actually provide.
Mm-hmm. And as you were talking, I thought of even one more problem that I would add to this holding pattern that you described, which is the desire to not do, and this might be short-sighted, but the desire to not do work that I'm not getting paid for. So going out and looking for all these big fish that have good values and big budgets would take away some of my time that I could spend billing to a person at my lower rates.
And the result of that is what?
Frankly, I'm kicking the can down the road, right? Like my logical head knows that if I were to invest this time in doing it now, I would eventually get the client. But I have a hard time convincing the part of me that eats and pays bills to do that.
Right. So it's better to continue working for scraps so that you can stay overwhelmed and overworked and over delivering than reallocate some of that time to actually receive and up level the standard of your work and your receiving and your contribution and all of the other things.
Right. I wouldn't say scraps, but I think yes. Besides playing with semantics, you're right.
Yeah. And by all means, feel free to correct me at any point. I'm meant to use that word to just drive the point home of like
Yeah.
this part of you that is kind of winning the focus of your energy and attention and actions. Like it's very comfortable living at a low threshold,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
At a
To the
lower
point,
threshold than what I could achieve for sure.
100%. And to the point where it's fighting for it. Like, no. There's no like big impact people that are heart centered and like they just don't exist. Like, don't even look for them. Like
Mm.
they just stick to the lowest rung that you can get, even though you could probably provide a whole lot of value.
Yeah, that's you've hit it on the head.
Okay. So what comes up for you internally as I share that?
Um, um, it sounds like when I'm putting myself in the perspective of somebody that's hearing this, I think what I would say to that person, or like what
Well,
the
how about your like
my
don't
internal,
correct. Like don't put the second person on this. Like
yeah,
what's your internal experience?
it sounds like I'm not trusting myself.
Okay. In what way?
Um, that it's like in the on the in the back of my brain, there's this voice that's saying like, stick with what you have because you couldn't find better.
Okay. Anything you wanted to add to that?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack even just there. So I like,
Agreed. Yes, that is very true as well. So, okay. So if you're looking at just that, we can dive further into that, or did you want to unpack that even more, like
yeah,
the outside?
re-ask me your original question so I can see if anything else comes up.
Well, really, this all came up because I asked you what feels internally, right?
Mm,
And your brain started to deflect. Well, if like other people are here, like this is how I would intelligently answer this question. Like, okay, great. So there's a defense there that doesn't want to look at that piece, which is fine. That's how this process works. And then when you went further into it, right, it's well, really, there's this part of me that's just saying stick with what you have because you can't find any better. Right. And then I asked you, okay, well, do you want to dive into that further or you wanted to explore all the other pieces that are now beginning to ripple out?
that's the crux of it, really. Like I'm trying to think of what else would motivate me to not look for other bigger paying work. And there, I'm tempted to say there might be a little bit of laziness. Like if I stick with my billable clients, I make enough. Sure, I could make more, but it's enough. You know, they're like that is a piece. But I know that's not true because the same person that founded a business 2 years ago was very much not lazy. Like I worked hours on end to create this business and create a client base. So maybe the word isn't lazy, maybe it's tired, maybe it's feeling like, okay, I did this massive feat of creating an agency. Now I kind of want to sit back and relax for just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm also willing to take on, work that's low paid where I have to do a lot, deliver a lot. I feel overwhelmed. I feel stuck. I feel like I'm constantly working. But yeah, I'm probably also lazy as well.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So why do you think those don't add up?
Um, why do I think those don't add up? I think like there's this voice in my head that always, and I want to be clear, this is a motivating voice in a lot of ways, but there's a voice that says that I'm a lazy person if I don't work hard. So I'm like caught in a loop of needing to prove to whoever, like the voice in my head, society, my mom, whatever, that I am a productive, non-lazy person.
Okay. So not only do I have to work hard to prove my worth, but I also can't accept excess and abundance and receiving a lot
Mm.
because then I'm probably might threaten that I might not have to work so hard.
Yeah, that's another thing that just triggered in me is like a sensation of guilt of like, how could I sit here and work with these people that like touch pieces of society that don't have nearly as much privilege as I've experienced in my life? Like, how could I work with them and also be making casually a couple $100 an hour? Like, I only have to work, a couple hours a week. Like, that just doesn't, the optics are bad. And I sense that and feel guilty about it.
Got it. So the optics of my own abundance while I'm trying to help people that are less privileged or in worse situations won't add up.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And do you think that people are going to rise to role models that show them what's possible or to ones that just give them relief from the situation that they're in?
Um, uh, it, I don't know. I mean, I don't work directly with any of the people, the community members that are touched by the programs. I'm very business to business, so I really work with nonprofit leaders. So,
Okay. So then even further, so the people that I'm afraid of viewing me in this way, the people that I had like optical concerns about, I don't actually have any direct contact with. I work with the people that actually run these organizations that probably get paid a lot more than the end user of those organizations. Yet I am feeling guilty that if I am in opulence and I'm in my own abundance and I'm doing it authentically, then I will somehow be hurting them or breaking this bond.
yeah, well, yes, and the people that are like working in the organizations, I think like their judgment also affects me just as strongly. Like even if I'm removed from the end user, I still have to look, the pleasant, mostly white people that work at these organizations in the face while I take vacations and travel, and they like slug along working less than what they're worth at a nonprofit organization.
So I guess it goes back to the same question of, do you think in the grand scheme of things, you can do more good in the world, you can be a brighter, better lighthouse standing in your abundance, in your opulence, in your transcendence of all of these scarcity mindsets and limitations? Or do you think you're a better service staying at that level of scarcity and like, no, we can't overcome this level because it might be a threat to the pieces of us that keep us here?
I think like it's a really loaded question, and I might need you to repeat
Absolutely.
it, but
So, okay,
but
I'll shorten it for you.
yeah,
Do you think you are a better role model living in your abundance and in your highest capacity to uprise the people you're looking to help, both organizationally and their end users? Or do you think you're a better role model if you stay overwhelmed, overwork, underpaid, underappreciated?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I've never ever thought about being a role model for the people that I'm working with and among. It's like I I almost wouldn't place that kind of a hierarchical relationship where somebody might look up to me, right? I consider and hope to become peers with the people that I'm working with.
Fair. Then why are optics important?
Yeah, I just really want their approval.
Right. So there it is, right? I don't want to quote unquote appear above them, even though I think you living your own truth, you living your own abundance is not being above anybody. It's just being the expression of your fullest self. Optically, that can look like the arrogance of being above somebody, but I don't see you as somebody who would do that. I think you would do it in a very authentic way,
I appreciate that.
right? You're welcome. And given that, the whole time I'm concerned about, like, on the one hand, I don't care about that because it should be authentic, but I am in one part of you, like, deathly afraid of not getting the approval of these individuals. So I play as small as humanly possible to get my basic needs met so that I don't shine bright enough that they might not be able to handle that.
Yeah, I think like, and that's an issue like nobody's surprised to hear that extends past my career and relationship with colleagues. It's definitely like um helping other people feel comfortable is central to who I think I am as a person, which has two sides, which is, you know, nurturing, caring, respectful, and also um, catering to people's needs too much, or the failure to set boundaries, or craving approval.
Correct. So you are living the distortion of your gift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Correct.
that's a great way to put it.
So yeah, there's a lot of benefits to that, and it makes sense why you want to work in the areas that you do. But it goes back again, you living the distortions of your gift, is that helping anybody, including yourself?
Absolutely not, but it feels it feels like if I were to change, I would lose a huge part of my identity. So it's a hard shift.
That's absolutely true. And it absolutely makes sense. Then it comes down to keeping that part of your identity. How's that working for you?
Um, there are ways in my life where it suits me really well. Like it has given me a large circle of friends that I care about and that care about me. And also has brought me here to this room having this conversation. So both are true.
Absolutely. And it's also the part of you that is latching on and stuck to the pieces of you, the thoughts, the paradigms, the perspectives that keep you overworked, underpaid, overwhelmed. So it's like this isn't about you shedding the essence of the good parts of who you are. What's really emerging for you is Are you ready to step through the discomfort to evolve who you are and shine your light brighter? And in the process, there's going to be people that are going to be blinded by that light and are going to refuse to match you, and you are going to have to leave, right? That is a consequence of making that choice should you decide to make it. But from the outside looking in, like to me, that's what seems to be emerging. So how does all of that land for you?
Yeah, that's an accurate summary of what I'm experiencing.
So really the question then becomes, do you want to expand into this up-leveled identity?
It would mean losing some relationships, like you pointed out. It would also mean gaining some relationships.
Absolutely.
And um like the answer is yes, of course I want to. When it comes down to tactically, how do I do that? I think that's where the sticky pieces are.
And what do you mean when you say tactically, I don't know how to do that?
Well, like we can sit here and have this conversation and like theoretically, of course I agree that I should raise my prices and charge people more money for my time. But when it comes to sending a group of people a statement of work where my price is increased and then making a game plan for what I'm going to do if they say no, um, the fear, the concern, the guilt that we're talking about, all of that bubbles up in that moment and it prevents me from sending the email.
Right. So you know the tactics, like you just said it yourself. I have a proposal. These are my new prices. You don't even have to send it to current people. You can send it to new people. The issue then is the emotions, the thoughts, and the patterns that are going to surface when you do that, and or when somebody says no.
Yeah, exactly.
And how many no's do you normally hear?
So I don't get hard no's. I get soft no's. And what that means is like I'll raise a price and they'll accept it because they know they need my services. But then they'll also start looking for another provider that's cheaper, or they'll bite their tongue and kind of accept the higher price until a conflict comes up. And then like one woman kind of ghosted me after that conflict because she just wasn't worth it to her because now I cost more money.
Right. So technically, you don't really hear a lot of no's. Like you've priced yourself at the point where most people will accept that price.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So it goes back to again, right? Stick with what you have because you couldn't find better. And you
Mm-hmm.
price yourself to ensure that you get as much of that as possible. And you mentioned, like, okay, what's the dynamic of the people that you work with? Like, they'll request this, they'll try that. Like, what I'm inviting you to do is like actually turn it around. You are the one accepting these conflicts. You are the one saying, yes, I will then barter to provide more than it was agreed upon, or I will, squeeze this in, squeeze that in. It's not them asking, it's you saying yes. That's what's creating the dynamic that's keeping you overworked and overwhelmed.
Yeah. And like I had a woman who maybe I shouldn't share this podcast with after, but but she I said no to a request to do a last minute addition to a project that had been planned for 3 months or so. And I said I just can't deliver it in the next week. I planned this project. You saw the scope. You knew what was going to be published. I just can't do it last week. We got on a call and she'd like pushed back and encouraged. She asked like what was wrong with the relationship that I couldn't counter with a more collaborative response. So two things there. Like first, this organization just generally seems to have a lack of respect for boundaries. And also, like my relationship with boundaries is kind of sticky anyway. So when I say no, it's like an aggressive, like I have to pull everything up inside of me to just like spit out, like, no, I can't do it. Like it's not a tactful process because I hate it so much.
Right. So is the real issue the tactics or your paradigms and self-regulations around boundaries?
I think like you could do multiple approaches. You know, like maybe before I sent that email, I could have sat down and I could have been like, what, you know. But the systemic issue is my approach and feeling about saying no.
Right. So if it was comfortable to say no, would your life be easier and it'd be easier to execute on a tactical aspect?
Um, I want to say, I hope, I've never experienced the feeling of having it be easy to say no. So,
Okay. So there's problem number one. Like,
yeah.
no is a complete sentence and you have no idea what that feels like.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Like, if someone were just to give me a no, especially a close friend or like colleague or whatever,
So turn around. Like, this is your no's, not somebody else's no.
right? But my point is like I would receive that no as like, but why? You know, like give me some more detail. We're working together here. You know, like what's going on? So I've heard the phrase no is a complete sentence before, but like no is a complete sentence to strangers on the street. I don't think that it is for people that you're in a close relationship with.
Fair. I mean, you're welcome to interpret that however you want to interpret it. But from your story, what I got is like this individual was asking for things outside the scope of work.
Yeah. Hmm.
So knows a complete sentence is outside the scope of work, or you're welcome to pay extra.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't have to be like rude about it, but it's a matter of fact. This is what we agreed upon. I'm delivering on this. Now you are asking for more. What else is there left to explain?
Yeah. Well, you know, maybe that would have gone over better than my long email. Maybe I could have just said no and like sent it. I'll try
Right.
that
So
next time.
that's kind of my point, right? Like, what is the issue here? The tactics of like what to say, or the fact that you can't even imagine what it's like to just be okay with saying no.
Hmm. I can tell from the questions that you're asking that you think it's the latter. And I agree with you. I think you're right.
Well, if you disagree, by all means, like I'm interested in exploring your worldview here, right? Like I'm interested in getting an idea of like what it is that's coming up inside of you when I reflect something back. If you disagree with it, I am inviting you and encouraging you to be like, no, that's bullshit. I don't think you're right. Because then we're not like, and this also could go back to the people pleasing bit. Like you want me to say yes, so I'm just gonna concede and say yes. Right?
Yeah.
I actually want you to do the exact opposite. I want you to
Well,
present to me your reality, and then let's meet in the middle with that reality, because that's really the only one that matters. Me being right or wrong is completely irrelevant here. I don't really care.
yeah.
But me reflecting back accurate things as I perceive them, that is supremely important to me.
Well, to say no, I think that like I don't want to live in a world where people say no. Like I want to live in a world where people are committed to living in harmony with their neighbors, with the environment, where people's like extension of self is bigger than just themselves. And in the northwest hemisphere that we live in, like that's a little um you run into problems when other people don't extend their boundaries that far, like when other people don't think of others as an extension of themselves. Like you have to be a little bit more self-protective in the west, and so it's hard to get by with that mindset. But I really would prefer that the people I'm working with and living among um, had more of a mindset like me, where it's like just be nice, you know, like of course set a boundary if you need to, but like do you need to? Can't you give more to the people around you?
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, as the overall sentiment, I agree with you. right? What I would invite you to consider is if I could give a manual to everybody so that they could follow that manual and act in accordance with that manual, which I think is exactly how people should act, then I would be totally fine.
Right. But that's not the real world that we live in.
Absolutely. Right.
And
Like
I
the only thing we
recognize that.
control is ourselves. So the reason I bring that up is like, where is your focus going to? If the world could change, then I would be fine. Well, okay, great. That's true, but not realistic. So what can I control? What is my reaction? Right. Like if this person's going to ask for more than was agreed upon, that's the reality. Like thinking they should be different is arguing with reality. So if reality is not keeping me at peace, the only part that I have any control over is mine. So what is your piece here? Right? Like the piece that came up from the outside looking in is saying no, setting boundaries, and really being in these patterns where you are tolerating the patterns that are creating the overwhelm that you're in.
Mm.
Right. So it comes down to like, what is it that you would want to do about any of those?
Yeah, and there's lots of things. Like um I think the therapy is always people's first recommendation, and it's like it's one that I've done. So I feel like if they say that the definition of insanity is trying something multiple times and expecting different results. You've heard this, you're nodding your head, I see it. It's like um if that didn't crack the first egg the first time, why go back?
I mean, it's a fair question. So I think it really just comes down to like knowing what you know and having the pieces mapped out, right? Like the results I'm experiencing right now are ones of overwhelm and overwork and being stuck. My contributors to that, right? From a tactical vantage point, I think like I actually like I receiving like very confident answers. Like it's like you know exactly what you need to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But there's like this part that is hesitating to actually do them. And so far within that part, there is the, I'm just going to not trust myself. I'm going to stick with what I have because I can't really find any better. If I don't work very hard, I'm just going to be considered a lazy person. I have a very hard time saying no, right? So that's kind of like the map of at least the thoughts, right? We got into one feeling, which was the guilt, that are contributing to the results that I'm experiencing. So does that like resonate with you?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, yes. The answer is yes.
Okay. So I know there's a lot there, and definitely, like you said, we've begun to unpack these. It's going to go in multiple different directions. Um, but as far as like getting the general idea of what's contributing to what you're experiencing, does that feel complete for you, or is there still something left outstanding?
I think the thing that's outstanding is like um I'm sure you've gotten this with lots of entrepreneurs before. It's like I'm really good at doing my trade. Uh the financial aspects of my business are it's hard to orient those as my goal. Like it's hard to say to myself, I want to make more money this year because I'm not really a money motivated person. Like I want to satisfy my clients. I want to get more clients because I want to meet more cool people and help more cool organizations. It's even though I do my spreadsheets, I look at the financial projections and I'm like, well, I'm getting close to an age where I might want to buy a house. I should probably make more money. It's hard for me to translate that into something that I feel is true enough to be my North Star that guides my decision making process.
Right. And you're actually getting the exact thing that you want. Like you're working with cool people, you're meeting new cool people, you're working with cool organizations. And I don't really feel that inclined to make a lot more money. That's kind of the experience that you're getting.
Yeah, but I should make more money.
Well, again, is that really true?
Yeah, I think that it is. Listen, financial independence for me as a woman is really important. For a lot of my early 20s, I accepted money from my dad, which felt icky, and I don't want to do it again. And I think it's okay if you're in your early 20s, but like, I don't want to do that. And now I'm with a partner who I love dearly and makes more money than me. And so sometimes he pays bigger bills than I do. And I don't want to do that. I want to be on an even standing with my romantic partner. So yes, I would like to make more money so that I feel more confident in who I am.
Beautiful. So that right there is actually like the summation of the different parts that are trying to fight for your next actions.
Yeah.
Right. There's the part that you initially described when I'm like, yep, that's exactly the results you get. Like you're working with cool people, you're working with organizations you want to work with, you don't really care about money. This part of me is kind of like afraid to make more money. All these narratives around what happens and who am I going to lose if I make more money, versus the quieter part, which is like, you know what, like there's very good, up leveled, empowering, expansive reasons that I do want to make more money. So you know which part's winning right now. I think for you, it's really a question of which one do you want to work to step into?
Well, even just in the length it took you to describe each of those sides, right? Like there's all of these reasons that my head is using to make less money. And then there's the little single reason that my head wants to make more money. So
Yep.
either I amplify in quantity or in quality, but like I gotta get more on that side of the scale for the argument of making more money.
Right. Or you amplify in your expression of your own self-worth, and then the
Right.
quantity and the quality begins to take care of itself.
Right. I could also decrease all those concerns that I have against making more money.
Correct. So yeah, I mean, I wish I could provide that for you in one sitting, but unfortunately I can't. So if you want to then just close us off and summarize in your own words, like what did you come into this conversation thinking was your biggest like business issues, and then what did you come to realize at the end of it?
um, I came thinking that my biggest business issue was a sense of paralysis, not being able to make decisions about this crossroads in my business, specifically how I handle the sense of overwhelm that I feel at work. Um, and I walked away thinking that the biggest problem is, let's see if I can remember all of them. On two sides of the equation, my lack of boundaries, my guilt over, as you put it, shining brighter, blinding people with my light. And then on the other side of that equation, like, how can I convince myself that it is okay to make lots of money and that it's important for me to make more money?
Beautifully put. I mean, I don't think I would have summarized it any better. So 100% very nicely done. So yeah, in that case, you can just close us off with letting everybody know where to find you and who's the best person to find you.
Well, the best people to find me are definitely impact-driven organizations that need help maximizing their online visibility. The best place to find me is kochansconsulting.com. If you go to my website, kochansconsulting.com, you see a link to schedule a time with me. You can connect with more resources. You can get my email address. So that's the best place, kochansconsulting.com.
Beautiful. Well, we'll include all of that in the show notes as always. But Ashley, thank you very much for coming on and sharing all of your stuff. And for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much.